Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for Politically Incorrect Knitters. I'm Deplorable Knitter. I am broadcasting live from my car while my kids are in art camp. And I am joined, as always, by the fantastic Ann Pinkava. Hi, Ann.
Hello.
And this week, we finally have a winner for our August giveaway. Congratulations, Ernie Bird. You won the DK Patriot sock set from Chicken Lady Fiber Arts and the copy of Cody Schlegel's Odyssey Tale. I don't have it here to show you because I'm in my car, but I think you guys have seen them a lot and you know what it is. And so Ernie Bird, please contact us at politicallyincorrectknitters@gmail.com. Let us know if you want a physical copy or an audio copy of the book and your address so we can get that out to you. Congratulations. Before we get into politics, because I think Ann and I have kind of a lot to talk about today, I just wanted to show you all my knitting, which is also a blatant plug for Chicken Ladies. This is her beautiful colorway. It is called Purple. Is it blue? Is it purple? It's hard to tell, but it's pretty. And this is a new design I'm working on. It's not as, it doesn't show it off as well as I had hoped, but we'll see how it goes as it gets bigger. Sometimes all you need is a little bit more on it. But yeah, if you want to get a beautiful Chicken Lady yarn like this purple, make sure you use the code. Do we know what our September code is? Because I don't know.
That's what I'm looking up. PIK School 20. That's the September.
Perfect. So use the code PIK School 20 for 20% off of her yarns this month. And also, if you watch the Tuesday show, you guys already saw this, but here is this shawl I've been working on. It's got a really pretty puff stitch center spine here, and I'm knitting it up in a fade. I think it's a Karen cake thing, but it starts off really light up here at the top, and then as you can see, this is my bottom edge and it's starting to get darker, and it's just really pretty. You can't really get the effect in the car, but it's pretty.
Yeah, I was about to say that when you were knitting it up on Tuesday that I didn't realize it was a fade. I just thought it was one light color.
Yeah, and the bottom is almost like a forest green, so I'm kind of excited about that. I think I'll put some tassels on, on the corners. It's gonna be really pretty. I mentioned it, I think, on the Tuesday show, but I'm organizing a craft show at a local farmers market, and so obviously that means I have to have a booth. So I'm working on some projects that I can get done pretty quickly and sell at the craft fair. So that's what I'm doing as far as making goes. What have you got, Ann?
Well, I also showed this on our Tuesday night knitting war, which was hilarious.
It was a strange show. And that's a misnomer. It's our Tuesday afternoon knitting show because that's when Neil can join us.
Right. Our Tuesday show, whatever time it is.
Because it may or may not be at night. Someday.
Yeah, not at night at all. Wait, hang on. Which shows you about how much planning goes into it. No, it was really funny though. I kind of felt sometimes it's like, guys, we're veering off. Keep it together. But no, it was a lot of fun though.
Ann tried really hard to keep it on track, and the rest of us were just flying off the rails as fast as we could, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
It was a good time, but like trying to, whatever, guys. You just go. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. Again, we had Neil on and Tabitha from Murder Knits, Carrie from Deprogrammed, and Tina from A Wendy Yarn Fiber. It was a good time.
Mm-hmm. And Tabitha, did you say Tabitha from Murder Knits and Neil from Black Magazine?
I think so.
Okay, just checking.
Speaking of, Neil's new magazine came out. Check that out. But that's,
I haven't had a chance to see it yet, but I've heard a ton of people talking about it, so I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, I've just been able to open it up and flip through. But anyways, looks awesome. Knitting. So I have, I think I said then, so I went to Joann's and I found these 4 different skeins of yarn, and they're random acrylic Lion brand. Oh, but it's recycling. And I thought the colors looked awesome. So
Oh, did you get the respun?
yes.
I like that yarn. There was a yellow, not yellow. Well, there was a yellow and an orange. I wanted to get them to make pumpkins. Sorry. So show your thing off. I apologize.
No, totally. It is the respun though. And I grabbed 4 skeins. I'm like, these look really good together. So I'm making a little blanket, probably a baby blanket. Probably won't get it in time for the Let Them Live knit along, but there's another baby coming along in the family, so I can just punch it off that way if not. But yeah, it's making a diagonal blanket. I think it's very pretty. I like it. It's mindless. But while I was sitting here making my mindless blanket, that mother of mine said, why are you making all these stupid Afghans? Why don't you, make something nice with cables? So you may remember or not, the Shire Erin by Glennis C. And you can't really see it because my printer was dying at the time, but it's an all over cable sweater pattern. And I was knitting this with yarn that I had hand spun, and then I kind of stopped because I needed to spin more yarn. And then it was that sort of half anxiety of if I won't have enough yarn to actually finish it. And if so, then why am I putting all this effort into something that may not be properly finished? And that happens. So I have, excuse my reach, I have all of this stash knit picks in this coral tweed color because once upon a time I was going to make a bunch of Phoenix Wright sweaters that it plot wise on this video game. The Papa hats are all from this same series of video games, and I have made one. It's a big ugly pink sweater, but there's a heart on it with his initials, which English version is P for Phoenix, and Japanese version is RYU for I won't remember what the Japanese, but Ru is a rote word for dragon in Japanese. Anyways, not really important. But I had all of this noxious pink yarn, but this tweed one, I'm like, no, I'll have one version, which is the video game Pepto-Bismol pink, but I'll have another one, which is like a little more cool and subtle. So it's the same thing, but the color doesn't hurt your eyes. So I have all of this, and Mom said, so knit me a sweater, dang it. So I am.
Was it the original sweater for your mom? Like yes, a long time ago?
The original Shire Erin was for my mom. So she's like, I still want the sweater, but just grab a different yarn.
And am I wrong, or was that a Christmas present?
It was a Christmas present.
Okay. So this has been going on. If you guys watch us, it was a long time ago that Anne was working on this sweater. I had to dig way far back in my brain.
Yes, this is deep stash knowledge here. But anyways, I love the pattern. It just, the whole yarn situation was so bizarre. So I started, it's the sudden remembering that this sweater starts in the ribbing, that the first time that I cast it on, I read the first line, which was purl 2, knit 2. I'm like, oh, I'm sure you'll do this for 3 inches. And then I did. And I'm like, no. They're different by sections. And there's all sorts of little things. The pattern itself, the cables, once you see what you're doing and get into the rhythm of it, you can go ahead and, I mean, for me, it was like 8 inches, but then basically I had it memorized at that point. So it takes a little bit to get the hang of, but I really like it. So yeah, I have that started. And I also realized, just to rattle on, that my hands aren't used to straight needles. Like I can't do like when I'm knitting this, it's so bad and awkward because this is forward, but this needle ends up being like backwards over my right hand. And I feel extremely clumsy. I realized with the cable needles here, I have one sitting here. With the cable needles, when I grab them, the end of the cable needle is in my palm. So I hold it like this. But with the straight needles, I can't do that. So it goes off like this, and it's weird.
That's interesting. So is part of the story the fact that you haven't gotten your knitting needles back from Romania yet?
Oh, I still haven't. It'll be a while.
Oh, bummer.
I know. But in the meantime, I will relearn to use straight needles because this pattern is all knit in segments and then seamed together. So I was sitting there like, oh no, my knitting needles are still gone. And I'm like, oh wait, I have these straight needles here that I never use. And how's that working out for me?
I wonder if people really use straight needles much. I very rarely do. Once in a while, depending on the project, but like people out there who knit and you have circulars, do you mostly use your circulars, or do you usually use your straight needles if it's not like a hat project or something that it has to be in the round? I'm just curious because I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. And especially like there's a couple of straight needles that are shorter than this. I'm like, oh, that'd be nice to use, but they're the wrong size anyway, so it didn't matter. But yeah, also, so I'm just floating this idea that I think I mentioned again on Tuesday, but the Mark Stein joke, he was talking about the cost of living crisis, and and about how much heating prices and electricity prices are raising. And he made a comment about there'll soon be a class divide between the people who can afford to wear one sweater and those who can afford to wear two sweaters, when we're all freezing to death. And I thought, okay, this is not set in stone yet, but I'm floating the idea of having a 2 sweaters by the end of the year knit along, and that we'd have prizes divided for, just work in progress, and then finishing 1 sweater and then finishing 2 sweaters. And as DK pointed out, that you'd have to make the rule so at least one of those are an adult sweater, because 2 baby sweaters, 5 minutes.
Yeah, because I do have plans to make a sweater for my niece who's going to be in town for the next week or so. And I mean, I plan on making one that I can whip out before she goes home. And so, that's too easy. So you got to have a little bit of a challenge in there for, but if you guys want to join and the Let Them Live make along is still going on, you can make a little baby sweater for that. And then you'd only have to make one more. So and Christmas is coming. Who knows? Maybe somebody needs a sweater.
Exactly. Everyone needs a sweater.
Just getting you guys to plan ahead. And then we'll get you some prizes, because who doesn't love prizes? But
exactly. And not to mention not freezing to death, which is the primary point.
There is that too. And but if that's something that you guys want to do, also let us know. Ann and I are very needy this week. We need lots of feedback. So tell us what you think about things.
Exactly. Comment below.
But if you don't mind, I can hop right into politics off of that statement about heating costs going up and things.
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead.
Electric grid, right? The electric is going to be more expensive, in California. Gotta love California.
What a place.
So we have known for a while that their electric grid has issues, right? Like they have those rolling brownouts sometimes, and different things where they can't keep up with supply and demand, right? Mm-hmm. And so Newsom just came out and said, hey, we're going to ban gas cars. So straight up, we're not going to have them anymore. Everybody has to have electric. So then right after Newsom said that, the guy who's in charge of the power grid in California said, hey, there's going to be a lot of pressure on electricity this weekend. So what we need you to do is to not use any of your major appliances or charge your electric cars. So
do you happen to like to do things, have clean and fresh, have clean clothes, fresh food, and like drive places? Sucks to be you.
Yeah, and I'm not even gonna be I'm sitting in a completely electric car at this very moment. But the reason we chose to buy it is because my husband needed a commuter car. And so for us, it made more sense to buy an electric car than to buy a gas car because of how much he commuted and how much it cost us to charge it and things. But that was a choice that we made because it was best for us. And this whole nonsense, and we didn't do it at all about environmental stuff, because we know the trauma of mining the ion batteries, and like it's just like horrible strip mining that just like ruins the planet. But nobody cares about that because it's green.
Right. So cobalt mining, I saw a little segment on this past week. So cobalt mining, 70% of cobalt mining, which you need for all of this, comes from the Congo, in which they have children as young as 6 mining this for less than $2 a day. And the reason why that like rare earth minerals like this are mined in places with less regulations is that it takes sulfuric acid to mine this, and it's a dirty process. It leaves toxic sludge. It's awful. So there's nothing more clean than having it out of your sight. This is such clean energy. And lithium. Okay, lithium's a pretty rare mineral. The amount that we need for car batteries, and then regulated so that everybody must have this massive lithium ion battery in their car. Okay, there's only so many places where it's mined in the world. Again, a lot of it's being bought up by China right now, which is another fun thing. I love giving people money to beat Uyghurs. But not only that, but there's a lot of areas like England, they have some area where you could mine lithium, but nobody wants to do that because it's a dirty, difficult process. And then otherwise, there's areas where there's little like small traces of lithium. So you would have to sieve like miles of dirt to get the lithium you need. Or there's places in the ocean where you could mine lithium. So we are literally polluting the ocean with, again, horrible, dirty processes, because that's going to save the planet. And exactly. And also to distract with the saving the planet. This is some really awful, brutal stuff. And the people who are ride or die about this are you die, basically. Kind of like the people who say that you shouldn't, that humans are awful, you shouldn't have kids, and that will save the planet, but not them. That it's like, well, humans should pretty much commit suicide. It's like, well, you're still around. That's pretty weird. It's like, not me though, I'm clever. And I'm not saying that from a perspective of wanting anyone to die. I'm just saying that it's heckin' weird.
Well, the people that are for abortion have already been born.
Exactly.
It's just funny how that works. But piggybacking right off of that is that, they don't want people to have kids anymore. And now they are giving hysterectomies to minors. I sent that to you earlier in the week, I think. I was pissed off.
Yeah.
So I don't know in what planet these kids are equipped to make a choice about something like that. But I remember the story. My parents were married very young, and they were like 18 when my brother was born and like 20 when I was born. And my mom was like 22, and she's like, I want my tubes tied. And the doctor wouldn't do it because she wasn't old enough. He was like, you might change your mind. You might want to have kids. And now we're living in a world where, like, okay, she knew she was done having kids, even though she was super young, because, she was fine. But now we're in this world where a 16-year-old can get a hysterectomy without anything. We're just fine with that. Like, what is going on? What clown world is this?
And also, this may seem totally separate, but your veterinarian doesn't allow you to get your dog fixed too young. Why? Because of their development. As they grow up, they need those hormones to help the animal grow. It's the same for humans. Hormones are necessary for growth. And just the idea of taking the hormones or interfering with the hormones with people so young is incredibly disastrous for their health.
Well, and that's also a really good point. I think most of the viewers know by now that I had a complete hysterectomy, so I don't have any more female hormones. And I waited until I'm almost 40. And the reason that the doctor asked me to wait that long is because I'm now like a higher risk for things like osteoporosis because I don't have the hormones in my body. So they wanted me to be closer to natural menopause so that it wouldn't be as detrimental to me as a person living my life then. But so we've got a doctor who's normal, who's like, hey, you wait until you're at menopause age so you don't have to deal with osteoporosis and take more drugs and this and that. And now we've got a whole societal thing where they're like, hey, let's just sterilize our teenagers and pump them full of drugs. Like, what the fuck is happening in this world? This is what we're doing. I can't even believe we're talking about this.
Right.
When I was 16, I was super awkward in my body. If it had been an option, I probably would have said no because I was like, I wanted to be a mom and stuff. But when you're 16 and your hormones are out of control, you know what's going on and you're changing and you're trying to fit in high school. And now we're like, hey, let's throw this into the mix. Like, it just doesn't even make any sense.
Right.
Sorry.
No, it's
it
true.
Makes me mad.
No, and it is sincerely the abuse of children and young people just left unchecked. And, you know, like I said before, like people who are out and saying like, this is the kindest thing you could possibly do because otherwise these poor kids, you know, it's a suicide risk and this and that. It's like, you don't, just the wreck that it makes of people's lives. But it is really truly horrifying. And not to mention, so there have been several pictures going around the internet lately, and I kind of squirm a little bit every time I see one, but of the surgeries done on forearms of the girls. Sorry, to keep this as nice, to create the fake
Male
man
anatomy.
part. Yes.
Yeah.
They stripped the skin from your forearm to then create that and regraft it onto your body. And it's a huge infection risk. And it is shocking. And you know, this is not something that can just be refixed and happy. Like it's, oh gosh, sorry. I just sit there and kind of.
If you haven't seen it before, it's really very horrifying looking. I can't even imagine the pain that must be. They're disfigured. Like, if you see somebody who's been very badly burned or something, it almost has that look to it where it's all just scar and but this is what they're doing for their mental health because that's totally natural. Again, it kills me, man.
No, it does. But it's no help to kids. It's not, oh gosh. Anyways, I feel like we should get it onto another subject. Not that this one isn't important, but I'm just have the heebie-jeebies. Again, not that
You're totally skeeved out.
Totally skeeved out. Not that, okay, you need to understand, to a certain extent, you need to understand the horrors that are going on in the world and are considered, you know, happy and everything else. And they really are not. But, sorry.
Well, we can talk about our wonderful world leader if you would like to.
Oh, sure. That's another. Oh, and skip talking about our favorite former vice president. But before that, I was going to mention earlier with the environmental thing that the German health minister, you know, he says that everybody, you know, with the environment, that if people starve, that the environment is more important than you starving. So if the German people starve, but the environment agenda goes forward, well, then that's just okay. And also you may be saying to yourself at home, well, those Germans, they're just that way. But that's going on all over the world. That's not just a German specific issue.
Yeah, it's going on all over the world. And they've gotten to the part where they're not saying the quiet part quietly anymore. They're just saying it because I don't know if it's because people are like, oh, it's not going to hurt us, or, oh, they have, you know, we should protect the planet, or no, this is bad. they like are telling farmers not to farm.
Exactly.
We need food. Farming is important.
Right. They're blaming energy crises and food crisis. Well, that is just Putin and global warming. It's like, no, it's not. It's horrible mismanagement. Putin and global warming. And not to mention, okay, so this whole bug eating pushing agenda, not only is it's horrible and it's debasing. And it's the kind of idea of it's people implementing policies that they will never follow themselves. Nicole Kidman can sit there with chopsticks and a gold curtain background and say, bugs taste good. Yeah, she's having the steak later. Don't think anything different from that. But not only that, and eating bugs. Okay, so, and some people will say, well, there's many places around the world that eat bugs. Why are you so squeamish? You think you're better than those people? No, it's bugs have little microorganisms and micro diseases that are associated with bugs that are not good for humans. It's almost as if it's instinctual for us to go, ew, the places in the world that eat bugs are not the particularly healthy places of the world. Okay, bugs aren't good for us. You can say like, well, there's a certain amount of protein, there's a certain amount of this. It's like, introducing new diseases for fun into the population, it's not cool. It's not. And then saying this whole thing of, well, if you were really environmentally friendly, if you really cared about people, you'd eat the bugs. It's horrible and wicked policy.
It's a little bit like our friend Tabitha was mentioning that on Tuesday about how they're going against like real food, like cows and real things. Like, don't eat stevia, just eat the real sugar. Like, why are we trying to like make all this stuff that's like other stuff? If tofu is so good for us, why are we making it into chicken patties? Like, explain it to me. Like, I'm 5. Like, if this is how it should be, then why is everything ground up and chemically made, altered to pretend it's something else? That's the part that, like, I could get behind you if you were like, hey, I love bugs, they are so delicious, this is the best thing I've ever eaten. But when you take your cricket powder and you put it into my potato chips thinking I'm not going to notice, that's the part I have the problem with, because it's not potato chips, and why are you trying to make it be potato chips?
Exactly. And another thing that really gets to me, it's this idea that food only comes from a plastic packet. And a lot of people fall into this all the time, that I'm sorry, I couldn't possibly eat it if it didn't come, right from the store. I don't even know where to hunt tacos in the wild. That I went to this talk once. It was a kind of local pub. They had a series of science talks about, they'd sit there and someone would give a speech and people would ask questions. It was in connection with the college. And I showed up late. So that's as far as I go. But it was a guy talking about that they were trying to develop a cure for Huntington's disease and Alzheimer's, which is a brain degenerative disease. And see, I'm trying to remember what his organization was called. It was like, Shepherd's Gift or Shepherd's Cure or anything. Anyways, so basically what he found out is that he could breed sheep with a specific health defect that would create a specific tumor and chemical in the brain of this animal, but that tumor and chemical could be used to then make a cure for humans. Okay, and this was his line of scientific research, and that he was trying to get funding for this. He was trying to get this going forward. But the thing was, he's like, okay, the animal, again, it's a pity to purposefully make sick animals. I'm not saying, anything about that, but that you could tell and you could butcher the animal before, the tumor makes them completely shut down, and you could replicate the process down the line, so that you could have enough of this, and then enough of the chemical to then create this and hopefully create a cure, because they had good research going in that direction. But the laboratories would not do it because it was not a process that could be totally created in a lab. That the only real science happens in a lab, and that growing animals specifically for this purpose was not good enough, that it had to be chemicals only. And he was very frustrated because of this, because he was, doing something that was in a good direction for a cure. And that's kind of what I feel like it's in food. It's like, well, if my chicken nuggets aren't in a dinosaur shape, are they really, worth eating at all? And then we kind of fall into that where it's like, well, we'll starve. It's like, well, we could make our own stuff. We could, produce things on a small scale. And, made at home really does count, as far as, not just, I mean, we, as knitters, we run into this a lot, but it's like, oh, well, it's not store bought, but I made it and I took all this time. Oh, well, it's not store bought. Food. Oh, well, it's not in a plastic package. I'm not sure I could eat this.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is just that our tastes have been altered by eating all of this prepared food. We're very they on purpose make it so that, like, Lay's, you can't eat just one. They really put the stuff in there to make it so that you want it. So it's somewhat not as satisfying. Like, if I were to go out into my garden and dehydrate some zucchini and put some seasoning on it, it doesn't have that same satisfaction necessarily that we're used to. And it's something that has been happening for a long time. And I think that my family's pretty normal. We eat vegetables, we eat homemade food, we eat out, so it's not like all we do is eat packaged food, but it's how life is. It's normal. And I think that's part of the problem, is that that's how we've been trained.
Right. And I also say this as a great lover of the Taco Bell. Like, I love me some fake cheese. I love me some Doritos. Baja Blast is top tier Mountain Dew. I love all of it. So I'm not here to shame. But it's like, ooh, that's, I've missed the Taco Bell being abroad. It's a great place. But
Right.
But even with all of that, getting, not disparaging real food, not, I don't know, it's a change in mindset towards things.
I think that's kind of the point. Like, we're just used to being able to go and open a bag and it's delicious. And cooking real food takes more effort. Food takes more effort, and we're a very instant gratification society.
Right. We expect
a huge part of it.
Yeah, we expect our bread to last longer than a week. That's not how normal bread works. You bake a loaf of bread, it's really only a couple of days on that thing before it gets bad, or hard or less good. And that is also why things like bread pudding were invented, so that you have more uses for what you have, for the materials you have. Yeah, but right. Like I said, with the bug agenda, that it's gone from, oh, meat is evil, and then I've started hearing whispering, and you're like, okay, meat is evil, fruit and vegetable, that's the way to go. But farming at all, getting those fruit and vegetables, that's bad for the environment too. And so yeah, it's this horrible, the slippery slope and Overton window and all of that stuff, where they're like, and people are like, no, they'll never stop at just vegan. Oh, they're changing. I wonder how the vegans feel about crickets too, because they're moving from you ought to be vegan to eat the crickets, dang it.
I don't know. That's interesting. If you're a vegan, please let us know how you feel about crickets.
Exactly. How do you feel about crickets and crickets' lives mattering?
All right.
Mass massacre of crickets.
All right. Well, I don't know the answer to any of that, Anne. How do you like that? I got nothing.
Well, eat your beef.
I know, right? Eat some beef.
Unless you're Hindu. I get it. All right. Everybody has a right to eat whatever they want to eat. Disclaimer, whatever. Anyways, those World Economic Forum boys, they're not your friends.
No, they're not. Want to know who else isn't our friend?
Who?
President Biden. Did you know
Indeed.
this week in a speech, he called MAGA people fascists? Like straight up, he called us Nazis in a speech. And then his press secretary doubled down on it.
Yeah, which, okay, and we said this again, origin of our show. Trump supporters considered de facto white supremacists by rivalry. The shock and awful and defamation that all of that is, okay? And now it's the former vice president and his press secretary saying this, and that's half the population. You straight up called half the population horrible, unfounded things because you disagree with them politically after raiding the house of your political opponents. And after the FBI was all like, look at all these classified documents he had, as they take a picture and post it on the internet.
Yeah, that's strange, isn't it? I mean, generally when I have things I don't want people to know, I don't post them on the internet. I mean, that's just, internet security 101. Like, hey, you don't want people to know where you live? Don't tell them. Like,
I know. I'm just, okay, I don't have any secret documents, but disclaimer, no secret documents. But even if I was like, oh, and I'm going to lay out on the floor all of my personal information that I don't want you to know, and then I'm going to take a picture of it, but it's okay because it's just the file folders, but there's the names on the outside. Like, no, you wouldn't do that. It'd be like the post the outside rim of your social security number challenge. Don't do that. That's a terrible.
No, it's terrible. And then after he called us fascists, he reminded people that we killed several police officers during the January 6th insurrection. Do you remember several police officers dying that day, Anne?
Turns out they didn't actually, though that story is still going around. But guess what? They did not die during that day.
But the president said it, so it must be true. And if I'm just watching regular news, how do I know any different?
Which is very true. It is very much a low information voter thing. And not only that, but like medical attacks in the days afterwards were several police officers dying. No, and there was the original story where it's like, oh, one of those evil January 6th rioters bashed someone with a fire extinguisher. It did not happen. The only person who died on January 6th was Ashley Babbitt, okay, who was an unarmed woman, an unarmed vet who was shot. But yeah, you're going to need more than AR-15s to take on the government. You're going to need jets. But it was only, as was joked by Babylon Bee and other people, it's like, but the government was almost overthrown by one guy in a buffalo hood. So, yeah. No, but and not to mention, again, this is not original to me, but that this is a year on from the fall of Kabul. Okay. And they didn't have jets before, but the Taliban does have jets now because we left it to them. Clearly, one of the most awful, mismanaged, shameful, and again, American mainstream news just kind of skips on from that. But how deeply we are shamed in the view of the world and of the view of even the American people to our own military leadership because of what happened in Afghanistan, because of the Marines that died, because of the people who are still left there, because of just the awful way that people were withdrawn, and then who they decided to take was also iffy. And then you have people that brought in from there who then committed crimes in the US. This was not well managed. We did not know exactly who got on the planes, and again, who we also left. And it is so shocking and wicked and bad. And yet they're going out there, and it's those evil MAGA Republicans, people who are actually proud of their country. They're the evil ones. And this, okay, so this is a side story, and this should not make me as angry as it is, because this is the real political power who are saying awful and evil things about our country. But okay, you all know that I like me some superhero movies, but that they are bringing back Chris Evans' Captain America character and this is rumored, to specifically denounce those MAGA Republicans. Anyone who would have thought that Captain America, a character created for World War II, just in case any of that toxic patriotism is getting out into the wider public, just want to make sure that he denounces that. Like, just like, I don't know. It's awful. It's wicked. I keep saying it's wicked, that you're taking a pre-done narrative and then you're twisting it at the end to serve your purpose. But yeah, it is very much and it is, hey, you people out there who love your country, who, appreciate its history, not even saying that all of the history was good, but I don't know. There's always that thing of, well, not everybody did good things in history, as if we all aren't humans and we're somehow can attain perfection now. But that, everything is year zero, that bugs are great. There's no previous history of bug eating being bad. We never ever lie to you ever. We always said that COVID lockdowns were bad. And Deborah Burke's coming out and saying, well, I always knew that vaccines weren't going to be that effective. Stuff like this down the line. Fauci saying like, oh, well, I didn't say lockdowns were going to be awesome. That this rewrite of what happened before, and don't think backwards, and it's the 24 news hour cycle, and you forget what happened yesterday. No longer view of history, no longer view of story, no, I don't know. That's my, sorry.
I like the being able to get news whenever you need it, but there's something about like you said, there's something about this constant stream that's not natural. And either you've got people who are not watching enough of it, or people who are in it so much. We need a little bit of I don't know.
Again, look, hi, news junkie here. I will admit that I am that guy and have been that guy for a while, and I don't really watch sports. I'm kind of in the news all the time. Okay, and rest and people who aren't, good for you. You're out there living your life. That's awesome. But it is the thing of, if you just see the top couple headlines, and the top couple headlines are a mainstream news source, it's CNN, it's whatever, and that's all you hear, and you think that that's good because it's, the most trusted name in news, and you move on with your day. And the amount, and this is just awful because it is such a thin veneer, but that people do get swept up in this. And I didn't read the whole thing, but it was an article about how, maybe you shouldn't discount the other side of the political argument, which, is fair. But it was the opening sentence was, well, of course you're the good people. You're on the side of love and happiness, and the other side are racists. So of course that, and then, as she goes on, it's like, try to see the other side. But she, again, I didn't finish reading the article, but it didn't seem as if she was going to like say, hey, not really racist. But that's the thing though, that you have people out there who have gone along and they have done everything that they have been told that good people do. And they have gone through all the COVID lockdowns, and they've locked down when they've said to be locked down, and they've been masked when they said to be locked down, and they've done what they think is the good thing, and getting the vaccine when they've been told to, and they go to and they support BLM, and they support the rainbow causes, and they support everything. And when they're told that environmentalism is the best, they buy the electric car, not just because they want to, like you of course, but they buy the electric car, and they eat the cricket food, and they do all of this. and that they're rarely told that there's another way to look at it. But the amount of energy, and you're going around and you're a happy, bubbly person and you think that's great. There's awful people out there who don't believe this, and I just don't understand, but they are awful. And the narrative of that, and like what it would take to say, you know, those years when you thought you were a good person, it's like you've actually supported the horrible mutilation of children, and you've supported like we've seen now with COVID lockdowns in children, that they're not being developed as much, that they're having speech difficulties, that there are people who killed themselves, that they're vaccine injured, and that, from, the cobalt and lithium mines and that issue. And it's like, actually, all this time when you thought you were being a good person, that there is a real human cost that happened because of it. And the sort of, that's a lot of shock to turn. That's a lot of mental, like that is a big swing of emotion that it takes to get to that point. And, looking at that would be very difficult for me. I think that'd be difficult for anybody, to have to reassess the entire what you thought the world was and what you thought politics were in order to make that change. Anyways.
Yeah, but I think that mental gymnastics is why some things can happen. And because people want to be good people and they want to do what's right, and I think that a lot of liberalism preys on people's good intentions.
Right.
I think that people want to be good people. I don't think that they want to be mean or bad or awful. But it kind of brings me to my unelected Hochul spiel that I have to talk about. I heard somebody asked me about Hochul in a chat that Ann and I are in, and it was something about, they were saying, well, as your governor, I'm going to win again. And they were like, but DK, was she elected? And she was elected as Cuomo's lieutenant governor. She was not elected to be governor. People weren't like, woohoo, Kathy Hochul, we think you're fantastic, because most of us don't like her.
Yeah.
But a couple of months ago, it happened right at the same time as the Roe thing. And I think that's part of why I missed so much of what was going on. There were, the Supreme Court came out with the information on concealed carry that, that I don't even remember specifically what it was, but they came out with the concealed carry ruling. And then like immediately after that, the Roe thing happened. And so it was it was overshadowed. The whole gun thing was overshadowed because of that. And I missed this. This happened in June. The reason I'm pissed off about it now is because it goes into effect today, which is September 1st. So in response to the Supreme Court saying, I think it was that it had to do with concealed carry. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Right. I believe it was the Supreme Court ruling that that New York said, no, concealed carry, you can't have that. And the Supreme Court said, we're overturning this because concealed carry is constitutional.
Right. And it wasn't just New York. It was several states, because New York is not the only one that had the deal. So now, starting today, Hochul has lorded over us that you have to, there's going to be expanded eligibility requirements for concealed carry. You have to have a firearm training, which I'm not necessarily opposed to, because I think if you're going to be carrying a firearm on you, you should be proficient with it. It's just, it's something you should be comfortable with, but I'm not into legislating stuff, so.
Right,
whatever.
Not into state sponsored, have to
Correct.
be. Yeah.
But so you have to have, so the state is going to regulate and standardize training for applicants. And they're going to restrict the ability to carry in sensitive locations. I will list sensitive locations for you in a minute because, but she's also made it so that private property, if they do not explicitly say you can carry, then you are not allowed to carry there. So she's made the default that you are not allowed to carry.
Right.
And then we're going to have more state oversight of background checks, and they're going to do actual like regular spot checks on people too, to make sure you don't have any convictions or anything.
Oh,
right.
I love stop and search of guns.
It's not stop and search. It's more of a computer like, hey, if you were convicted of something, we're going to do checks just to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah,
and
that
like,
will never be overreaching and awful.
Correct. And that's the thing. Like, in theory, that sounds good, because heck, if somebody's out there and they've gotten a gun charge on them, you know, for not having it properly registered or something, that sounds great. But is that really what's going to be happening? Or is it going to be like, oh, you had 3 speeding tickets and now you're technically got this on your record and now we're going to say you can't have it? Like, I just see it going so far the other way.
Is this going to save a single old man at a quickie mart who's going to get beat up? Like, at all? Is this going to save anyone from random stabbings or even random gun crime? That, and I say random in a general sense, because there is in New York City alone a massive crime wave. And it's like, oh, well, what do you expect the random citizen to be able to do about this? Okay, right. Who do criminals prey on? Not the strong. And the crazy thing about criminals is that sometimes they come in groups. If you're one guy walking along, what are you supposed to do about it? You know, people getting attacked, people not getting convicted, people who are getting arrested and then thrown back out on the streets. Bail being easier.
And a lot of like this stuff, I think, was also in response to like the Buffalo shooting at the supermarket. And yeah, emotions were high, but all she's done is she's taken so now you cannot carry in a supermarket, according to her. So all she's done is make more places unsafe for people, because who follows the rules? Do criminals follow the rules? No, good people follow the rules, which means that the criminal will still come into Tops with his gun, and the rest of us will be there cowering in fear, just like happened before, because he's not going to follow the rules because his job is to not follow the rules.
Right.
It's not.
He's made it his business.
Science.
Right. And wasn't there, I'm trying to remember the story, I'm sorry, about the one guy who stopped a shooter in a mall, and he had a concealed carry, and it was a regulation that had just been overturned, that the mall said this was a gun-free zone, but because of the concealed carry rules being gone through, it superseded it. But guy started shooting. This guy, concealed carry owner, pulled out his gun and shot him, stopping the mass shooting in seconds.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And
but that doesn't matter, Anne, because if it's a gun-free zone, you're not supposed to have your gun.
Oh, well, I'm so sorry that, gosh, this is so stupid. And, this is 1 year on from the fall of Afghanistan, and 2 years on from thereabouts from Kyle Rittenhouse. The fundamental right to defend yourself and the property of yourself and others, just being called into question again and again. That guns are evil. Nobody should have guns. If we didn't have guns, people wouldn't kill each other, says.
Makes sense to me.
I mean, totally. That whole blunt force trauma, let's forget that one. But, little old ladies getting beat up on the street or pushed in front of trains, the gun made them do it.
Yeah. So, do you want to know what a sensitive place is?
Yeah.
Now in New York State, ready? These are her sensitive places where you can't take guns. Airports. I get that one. Bars and restaurants that serve alcohol.
Okay.
Courthouses. I mean, some of these were already like places you couldn't take guns, and they make sense. I mean, you don't want a gun in a courthouse. That's a high stress place. I get it. Daycares, playgrounds, and places where children gather. So I guess like I can't conceal carry on my own private property because I have kids. I don't know how like I don't know how that works. Okay.
Right.
Educational institutes, emergency shelters, so like a domestic violence shelter, a homeless shelter, things like that.
I'm sorry. Domestic violence shelters need guns. I am ride or die with that. Okay. Gun rights are women's rights. Gun rights are human rights generally, but gun rights are minority rights. Gun rights are what protect you from people who actively want you harm. If I was in a woman's shelter, you'd want somebody to have a gun. If you're dealing with violent or abusive exes who are stronger physically than the person who you are sheltering, you want a gun.
Right.
Okay?
Right. But, that's a sensitive place, so you can't have one now.
Restraining orders are just a piece of paper, people.
And generally, once you get a restraining order, it's just, what am I going to do? Hold it up? Stay away. So any entertainment venue is a no-go. Federal, state, and local government buildings, health and medical facilities, houses of worship. Haven't we had a house of worship that also stopped the gunmen because people were concealed carrying?
Yeah, there's a lot of houses of worship that really could have used gunmen if they didn't have them already. In fact, I'm trying to think.
Libraries.
There's been.
Oh, sorry.
I'm trying to think. There's been a couple of synagogues that have been attacked, and I know there was one in Pennsylvania that was a big one. I think that was in Pittsburgh actually. Anyways, but yeah, that a lot of synagogues do have armed security now because of it, and churches have also had this problem.
Yeah. So then there's also libraries, polling sites, Times Square, which don't even get me started. But the other one that I wanted to really point out is public transportation, including subways and buses. So if you are a person who has a concealed carry permit, but you live in a large city like New York, and so therefore you use public transport because not everybody owns cars there. It doesn't make sense. There's a huge infrastructure for that. She has literally taken away your right to concealed carry because you use public transport.
Yeah.
And that's just really messed up.
Yeah, that too. And New York public transport. Have you all seen what goes on New York public transport? You want to be armed. Like there's videos of.
I haven't been on a subway and I don't know, it's been like 20 years since I've been on a subway, but I remember them being scary way back then. Like, come on. No,
completely. And it is very, and again, with the electric car thing. So electric cars being more expensive, electric cars being, more difficult to get, again, with a lithium battery problem, which makes all electronics more expensive because there's more of a need for that. But it is very much a push for, it's, again, quick slippery slope from, no, fossil fuels are evil. No one should have a fossil fuel car. They're, saying that they won't sell fossil fuel cars after a certain time period in California and in England and other places. Fossil fuels being readily available and can be processed in first world countries. Let's ignore that bit. But fossil fuels are evil. Let's ignore them. Let's do really expensive electric cars too. So that knocks, the bottom off the market of people who can afford to buy cars. And it is moving all to the, but no one will own their own car. Why would you want your own car? That is selfish and unsustainable. Renting everything is the most sustainable. Having a big corporation own all your vehicles and run your buses, that's great. And if you live in the country, well, that's just unsustainable too. All that fresh air, no, everyone should live in these population centers because that's better for the environment. that, you owning your own car, owning your own things, that's just ridiculous. Owning your own house, you should rent. It's better for the environment. Is just a down the line nonsense. No, you are a bigot. Get on that creepy bus. And if the crackhead attacks you, well, that's probably because he deserved it.
Probably. But there's just one more thing about this that I really wanted to point out, and then we're going to wrap up. But so they're expanding the requirements that people need to be eligible to concealed carry a gun. So you're going to need a character reference, or character references, excuse me, but you're going to need people to vouch for you. So does that mean like somebody who doesn't like me per se, if I go for a concealed carry permit, does that mean that people can be like, well, I don't like her political ideas. She's got bad character. She's a racist. Like,
and not only that,
I've been a
oh, sorry. I was going to say, okay, so let's say a couple people are your character reference, and let's say that you're walking along and someone attacks you, so you shoot them. Okay, hypothetical. And let's say that comes into question of whether or not that was legitimate. So are those two character witnesses going to be on the fall for you?
Right. I don't know.
So are people going to be afraid to give character witnesses? Because look, man, I don't want to be liable.
I mean, I didn't even think about that. But they also, I mentioned firearm safety and the background checks, but then also there's this thing in there that kind of gets me. So if you have recorded violent behavior, that's going to be part of it. But also, but the thing that really struck out to me was if you've had treatment for drug-related reasons, that can be a reason you are not eligible to concealed carry. And also alcohol-related misdemeanors. And this one really stuck out to me because I live near a college town. And so people might not think about it, but like an alcohol-related misdemeanor is something like if you're in a frat and you give a minor frat brother a drink, you can be convicted of an alcohol-related misdemeanor. So it can be it's yes, in theory, these are good things, but it's also, you have to look at different situations. If I went to college and I was in a sorority and I got a misdemeanor for alcohol, it could very well be because we were having a party at our house and there were minors there. And so it's just these things that they're putting out there that it's just a way to punish people that are good people. I don't know anybody who, when they were, maybe you, Anne, but when I was 19 and 20, I was doing some stupid stuff. Like I didn't get in trouble for it, but that doesn't mean do you know what I mean? Like,
right. It is very much, you must not only have a squeaky clean record, you cannot have done anything ever, which again, except for, proper felonies, should not have anything to do with your constitutional right to carry, which I'm for no gun regulations anyways. But, that I've said before that, Brian's like, oh, well, you should, it's like, well, then you'll need some F-15s. I'm like, anyone who should afford it should have an F-15. That's my view on the matter. But anyways, that you have to be squeaky clean. You have to jump through all sorts of hurdles. You have to get other people to jump through the hurdles with you, which is another barrier. That, the expense and the trouble and the time, and to bring back to the, potential, domestic abuse, the ladies' shelter. Okay, hypothetically, let's say you're, a lady with an awful ex-boyfriend that you're trying to, leave and get rid of. Okay, so you're walking out, you're like, oh man, this guy wants to kill me. So what do? You're like, well, I need a gun. How many hurdles does that lady have to get through before she can get a gun? Getting character references, would that be considered a character reference against her, this guy, or potentially this guy's friends or family? How does she getting out of that situation work? How long does the paperwork itself take for her to get that, for her to get a weapon. And then if she takes the bus, if she works at a supermarket, if she's out in public anywhere where she's not allowed to have a gun, if she has kids in the household and kids in the household have different rules, how many hurdles does that create for again, hypothetical lady, but still for that situation, for her to be like, I fear for my life, and how many hoops before she can defend herself?
Right. Some of the rules aren't bad. Like, I'm not saying that I think that everybody should just have a gun. Some people are crazy.
I do.
I don't. Okay, well then, hey, but you know what I mean? My point is that you pointed it out. How many hurdles do people have to go through? And then what is the cost associated with it? What is this firearms training that they require? Because I know that they've always required firearms training. They've always required like fingerprinting and different things so that they know what the hell is going on. But I'm sure that she is doing it in this manner so that they can make it unattainable for most people. And
definitely. And also just even simply, when are the hours of firearms training? You know, people who work jobs, how do you figure that in? How many hours is the training? When are you going to have to be there? It's a lot of, I know it's crazy. Sorry.
It is crazy. But, and I didn't even get into the rules about when you go into those places, you actually have to have a lockbox in your car. And then there was a guy on the news who was talking about how unsafe it is trying to load your gun into a lockbox in your car. He's like, if I could do it in the parking lot, it's better because I can make sure it's not aimed at anybody. But if I have to do it while I'm in my car, that's just a whole nother layer of stupid that is going on. But as much as I would love to tell you guys more about it, I have to go get my kids out of art camp.
That's true. And sorry, quick thing with, and not to mention smash and grabs, getting stuff out of your car. But yes, that
right. But it's when it's in the lockbox, it actually has a cable that is connected to a piece of your car. So for somebody to do a smash and grab would be very difficult. But still, it's just making it unattainable for people, and it's just really disturbing. And I'm so mad that I missed it. I would have been talking about this way sooner, but I think it fell in with all the other things that were going on, and so it was easy to miss. But that's what you get when you get an unelected governor in a Democratic city or state. You get shit, and that's what it is. But guys, join the Let Them Live Make Along, make something happy for a little baby, a mom that needs some encouragement. Let's spread some happipiness and love. You can use Chicken Lady Yarns and get up to 20% off of your purchase by using our code PIKSchool20. And make sure you like, comment, subscribe, follow Ann and I on Instagram and this channel, YouTube and Rumble. And thanks for joining us this week. We will see you soon.
All right, see you guys. Bye.
All right, bye.